I like the Emperor when he's coming up.
Palpatine's good, but only on the strength of the performance of Ian McDiarmid.
Well, I understand that the writing's not great,
No.
but you know, but I think that Ian McDiarmid, you know, did a great job. I mean, one of my favorite scenes in the whole movie is the like the opera scene when he's telling the story of Darth Plagueis.
Right.
I mean, that's like, you know, he's sitting there going, wow, that's really cool. You know?
Yeah, no, he played it off really well in terms of what that sequence implied to the plot of the rest of the film. You know, that I mean, he even without saying so, implied that Darth Plagueis was the Sith Lord that trained him.
Right.
I think we all got that impression. That's how it was interpreted by fans, even though there's nothing in the dialogue to suggest that.
Right, just the way it was implied.
That's good acting.
Right, because the way he said it was almost as if he was relating a personal story rather than some legend.
But Anakin's turn to the dark side, where he just kind of
too quick
does. He just kind of like, okay, I guess I'll try this out now.
Which is why I think that, you know, if you plug that whole middle part out and stretch that in, you could have done some.
My general observation on the prequels is if you eliminate Phantom Menace and then stretch the plot of the second and third movies out across 3 movies, you'd probably have a better narrative.
Right.
And also let somebody else write the dialogue.
Well, yes. Or at least direct it. Because obviously...
in fact, can we get George Lucas not involved in it anyway?
Well, except paying for it.
He didn't pay for it. I think Fox paid for it.
Oh, yeah. But, yeah, because if you go, you know, further along, like, you know, when you have these kinds of discussions / arguments with people, like when you talk about the original series and the prequel series, and they tell you how much better the original ones were, you know, I can look at it and just be like, no, the dialogue was pretty much just as bad. You know?
Not really.
Because, well, it's the same. It's this exact same dialogue. You know, it's just as bad. Now, obviously, when you have Empire and Return of the Jedi with different directors, it's delivered differently.
Well,
a
yeah,
lot
no,
of
they
the time. So, you know, sometimes it works better.
Yeah, one of the things actors who've worked with George Lucas have said is that, you know, they tend to do a lot of takes, and his direction in between takes is always bigger, faster, more intense.
Yeah, make it big.
And it gets to a point where they're just laboring on and adding more and more histrionics and just trying to give him what he wants so that they can move on to the next shot or dialogue sequence. And then George Lucas goes back and he picks whatever take he thought was best, which is usually what the actor was just doing because they were at their wits' end,
right,
and wanted the shoot to fit.
Now, flipping, say we flip the coin and go to Joe's more expertise, Star Trek movies.
Yay!
Now,
wait, why does he get all the Star Trek movies?
Oh. Because you guys got to dork out about Star Wars.
Exactly.
Sorry.
Now it's my turn.
Spreading the love. So, what do you think is, you know, generally considered the worst of the Star Trek movies?
I think it would have to be a toss-up between Star Trek V and Star Trek Nemesis, the 10th movie. Honestly, I'd consider them even 2 separate movie franchises, original series, Next Generation, so maybe I could just say both. Star Trek V was...
You can split it up if you want.
Oh, I'm totally going to. I wasn't asking permission.
No, I'm just saying, it'll work for our discussion.
Star Trek V was directed by Shatner, and I don't know if you guys know about Shatner's, shall we say, legendary colossal ego.
I may have heard of it.
Star Trek V was Shatner deciding, hey, Kirk versus God, Kirk wins. Really?
Well, duh.
That was based on a plot that they had originally tried to work into the first movie when they had decided that instead of meeting a probe that was sent from Earth, the machine that was coming to Earth in the first movie was actually going to be some sort of an alien spacecraft that had gone around from planet to planet planting the seed of religion and belief in different places. It was decided not to go with that in '79 because there was a fear that audiences would really rebel against that, and the movie would would be a financial disaster, which it kind of already was.
Yeah,
but
they probably should have went with it.
By the time they did Star Trek V, social attitudes towards that sort of thing had changed.
Right.
Yeah. So
Yeah, Star Trek V was what, mid-'80s, early 80s, something like that?
Yeah, I think
It was something like that. I know Star Trek
question.
6 wasn't until after The Next Generation begun airing, so
I want to
5
say
had-
87. I want to say 87.
yeah, because I mean,
Sounds
we
right.
went in with your dad.
Yeah. My dad took us to a lot of movies.
Oh, that kind of reminds me now too. Indiana Jones. We didn't talk about that at all.
I don't know if we're done talking about Star Trek yet. I think Joe's got more to say.
Oh, I'm sorry. it jumped in my head. Go ahead.
Well, and then there was Star Trek Nemesis, Star Trek 10.
Right.
It was nonsensical. There was
I think,
the plot
I
was
think that's my least favorite.
the plot was
Stan.
Picard's clone tricks Picard into going to Romulus for some reason. Oh, and they found another data.
Right.
I'm surprised they didn't throw in Riker's
Convenient.
clone from the series just to complete that trifecta.
Yeah, I think.
It was pretty. The action sequences were very pretty. I'll
The
give it that.
spaceships were really
I think in
cool.
full
Oh, the
disclosure, I think
Narada?
I've only seen like the last 20 minutes of it, so it was like a kind of a battle scene, you know. So I was
Oh,
That's
yeah,
the one really redeemable part of that movie.
So
Yeah,
last
the
20
Narada,
minutes.
not
So-
the Narada, that was from
That's
the Scimitar.
The Scimitar, yeah.
It was a
So-
gorgeously rendered ship. It was beautiful, but there was a scene where Troy was telepathically raped. Why is that in a Star Trek movie? Why was it
Well,
necessary
they had done that in the series, though, like 4 times.
So they did it again.
Yeah.
Still not a very good decision. I mean, if you're going to telepathically attack a member of the Enterprise crew, obviously you're going to go to the counselor. We all know that. Not the captain, not the guy in charge of the ship at the time. I think Picard was off ship at the time. I don't remember.
yeah, I think he was on the other ship.
It was just the entire movie was Picard's clone being mad that he was a failed clone and sent to be a slave in the Romulan mines. How is that Picard's fault?
Well, I think the issue there almost is, at the time, cloning was in the news and was something that was being viewed as an advancement in technology in some way, and I think there was a feeling by somebody on the production team that that was something they should work into a Star Trek movie so that it could seem topically relevant. In other words, Shinzon was effectively Dolly the sheep,
Right.
only given Star Trek villain form. Now, if Picard had fought Dolly the sheep, that would have been really great.
Oh, that would have been an amazing
much
movie.
better movie.
And then afterwards, he gets a nice new sweater.
That's right.
Win-win.
That is a win.
That's just weird.
Wouldn't you use it for lining on his saddle?
That's less weird.
It's just-
Maybe a nice cushion for his captain.
yeah, I was saying, they can make a cushion for the chair. So the Indiana Jones.
I'd say those were good.
I think there's
Well, I know we kind of moved on to bad sequels, but
Well-
I just because we neglected it in the first segment, so
I think
I still haven't seen the newest one.
I think-
that belongs in the bad sequel category.
Oh, okay.
the
So I didn't
second,
know.
okay, well,
That
okay.
was
I
your
think
entire
people
reason.
are really hard on Crystal Skull when they don't need to be, and I
Yeah.
think that the real reason everybody is mad about that is there's a sense that using an alien skull as the MacGuffin was a departure from the previous 3 films, which had used something that was tied into religion in some way.
Right.
In other words, they had sort of departed from the spiritual aspects of that
Right.
series.
Yeah, I didn't hate it as much
But
as everyone else does.
but in certain terms of tone and pacing, it was
It
just
was an
like
Indiana Jones movie.
it's the way I look at it is it's the worst of 4 really good movies.
Right.
Which prior to the making of Crystal Skull, we used to call Temple of Doom the worst of 3 really good movies, and Temple of Doom disappointed a lot of fans. But I think looking back on it has really stood up.
Yeah, no, I like Temple of Doom, but I think my favorite Indiana Jones movie is still Last Crusade.
Yeah, I mean, you had 2 really charismatic actors with really great chemistry in that film.
Right.
I mean, Harrison Ford and Sean Connery tearing up the scenery together was probably one of the most entertaining things I've ever seen in my life.
And not to mention when I first saw Raiders of the Lost Ark again, I was kind of young, and watching people's faces melt really freaked me
Wow,
out.
that's true. Yeah, actually, Temple of Doom was the inspiration for the PG-13 movie.
Right.
That was one of those things that it was a huge controversy over. There was a huge controversy over whether or not PG was enough. Maybe that movie should have been rated R, with the guy pulling the heart out of the guy's chest. And I remember I wasn't allowed to go see it. My dad went to see it without me, and he decided it was too intense for me. And I had to wait for it on video, and then he had to fast forward through that.
I got to watch it at a drive-in. I got to watch it at the old Hyannis Drive-in.
Yeah.
It was pretty cool.
Well, now you're dating yourself.
I guess I am.
Yeah. I've only ever been to the Wellfleet one.
There was a Hyannis Drive-in. It's where the Stop and Shop is now.
Now, we're going to dig real deep. I mean, you thought we hit the bottom. We found another layer. We're breaking right through. The worst possible, just rip your soul out and stomp on it sequel that you can think of.
The movie that I think psychologically scarred me the most, and has left me waking up in the middle of the night in a cold sweat, has to be Batman and Robin. Now, I've gotten consensus on this. I mean, you can look up on the internet and get consensus that way from what actors and film critics have said. But I used to work at a Blockbuster. I worked there for 3 years, and I must have shown everyone I worked with back-to-back Star Trek V, which used to be the standard by which all badness was measured. And then we'd watch Batman and Robin, and I had universal agreement that Batman and Robin was a worse film than Star Trek V. And if you can make a worse film than a William Shatner ego project, you have really done something wrong. And every aspect of that movie was bad. The costumes, the acting, the reconfiguration of certain characters. They gave Poison Ivy a really complicated origin, even though she didn't have one in the comic books. But they gave Mr. Freeze and Bane very simple origins, even though they had very complicated ones in the comic books. And then, of course, the abominable choice of Arnold Schwarzenegger as Mr. Freeze.
Abominable. I see what you
that was pretty good.
They're so punny.
And the cherry on top, allowing him to write his own one-liners, which consisted of a lot of very bad ice-related puns.
Everybody freeze. Everybody
and I think,
chill.
and we are talking about a movie that ruined the careers of Alicia Silverstone, Chris O'Donnell, and director Joel Schumacher, and he earned it.
I have trouble picking the worst sequel ever because I'm not a movie critic. I like almost every movie. Like even Jurassic Park 3, I still liked it.
Yeah, because I'm so easy to please. It's
I
tough
know.
for me to pick something like it was the worst thing
I just
ever.
love it all. But when Pokemon came out, I was at the prime Pokemon age. I was at the prime Pokemon age. I collected the cards. I played the game. I watched, the reason why I got out of bed in the morning was to watch Pokemon. My dad would not turn the TV on until we were out of bed. And that was my motivation. And so when you saw the Pokemon movie.
Did you ever catch them all?
I did. No. I could never get Charizard.
You start with, sorry.
Charmander, yeah.
I meant the cards.
Oh, the cards, I see.
The original
Yeah.
151.
Oh, trust me, yeah, I know.
So, I saw the first movie in theaters and cried like a baby when, when all the Pokemon die, and it was heartbreaking.
The tears brought Ash back to life.
Yes. Oh, I cried then too.
Wow, I remember that.
Oh, yeah. I remember that one.
And the second one was really good, and the third one was a little more askew, but still good. Because I think the third one it started to introduce a new Pokemon with the unknown and stuff like that. But the fourth one ruined bits of my childhood. Maybe I had gotten older. I don't remember what year that came out. I don't think I saw it in theaters, but I saw that movie and I was like, maybe I don't like Pokemon anymore. And this was like a revelation. I had liked Pokemon for so long. I mean, the name of the movie is Pokemon Forever.
That's right.
And that alone.
That's witty for Pokemon.
The one redeeming quality to the fourth Pokemon movie is one of the main character that Ash meets, Sam. he travels 40 years into the future to Ash and Misty and Brock's time to save the legendary Pokemon, and Sam ends up being Professor Oak. Because Professor Oak, you know, at the end, Ash is very sad that Sam had to leave, and Professor Oak says, "Don't worry, Ash. I'm sure you and Sam will be friends forever."
I didn't realize that movie was directed by M. Night Shyamalan.
What do you got, Joe?
All right, first of all, I'd like to disagree with Batman and Robin. It was bad.
No.
It was not childhood ruining.
No,
It was bad.
Okay, your childhood has had more endurance than mine, I guess.
My pick is another comic book movie, though. I'd have to go with Superman 4, The Quest for Peace.
Oh.
Nuclear Man. Hey, let's clone Superman, but we don't want to use any of the established Superman clones from the comics. Let's just have an Aryan guy in blonde hair with nuclear powers. Superman 3 had a bad plot. Superman 4's plot was awful.
Well, we're talking about a film where the whole idea was to create a cautionary tale again about the Cold War.
Right.
And maybe it was somewhat logical on the part to follow to the conclusion Superman has all these abilities. Why wouldn't he just throw all of our nuclear weapons into the sun and save the world from the threat of nuclear annihilation?
Because that's not something Superman would do.
Oh no, I understand that, but I can see where the decision came from.
Yeah, I mean,
I'm not defending it as a good movie, Joe.
I would hope not. We'd have to have words. I could see why they would greenlight a movie with that plot. I could even see why you'd write a script with that plot. I can't see why you would then read that script again and say, "Yep, my job's done."
I can't. That movie was so bad. I think I blocked it from memory. I literally can only remember what people have said about it since then.
Now,
my most vivid memory of that movie, honestly, is in the museum. A strand of his hair is holding up, I think, 1,000-pound weight in a museum. Best shot of the movie. I think that says something.
Well, what do you think of the Supergirl movie they made, which, by the inclusion of the actor who played Jimmy Olsen, is technically within continuity?
I have no opinion.
Still better than Superman 4? I think we can agree on that.
4. I think neutral on anything is leagues better than Superman 4. The Supergirl movie wasn't the worst movie ever. It wasn't a good movie.
now,
I didn't see
We probably
that.
should have mentioned it on the Just Bad sequel segment, but
yeah. Now, unfortunately, Steve stole my soul-crushing movie for just his bad pick with Highlander 2, because that was just the worst abomination of film
Unleash your
I've
hate.
ever seen. Oh, trust me. You take something that's really cool, you know, with the Immortals, and you know, down through time we came, the whole spiel that Connery reads in the beginning, which is so awesome. And
That's Connery.
well, yes.
Connery
But-
could read the
so then-
ingredients off a box of cereal.
Yes,
yeah.
you could. But you
Morgan
take
Freeman to do a duet.
so you take that
I
kind of
fructose corn syrup.
you take that kind of great history to them, and you could have done so much with it. Instead, we're going to make them aliens from the planet Zeist, which is even a stupid name for a planet. And then they send these other alien guys on their little sky sled things.
Oh, the Insano twins.
Exactly. It's just, it's horrible. Absolutely just, you take a great concept for a movie and stomp all over it.
They eradicated the mythology, and for
Right.
some reason at no point thought this will bother people. Or maybe they just didn't take the genre seriously at the
Right.
time and thought sci-fi fans aren't going to care. Which, if you ask me, the first movie isn't a sci-fi film, it's a fantasy film. They established their abilities as having some spiritual quality to it, and they replaced it with a technological quality.
Right.
And that
are
was
we
a
talking about
mistake.
Star Wars
Like
again?
the midichlorians from
Like
Star
the
Wars.
midichlorians
Which,
from Star Wars.
again, no
Oh, that hurt
talk
too.
of childhood-ruining films cannot include
Right.
The Phantom Menace.
That's right. Well, I think that's about it for time. So I'd like to thank everyone for tuning into OCDTV, and we'll probably talk about something good next time, and hopefully we'll entertain you.
Next time I won't steal your thunder.
I hope not.
Yes, he will.
Yes, I will.
Probably.